we have not really see a completion. We might actually just go back, slowly hit lower, maybe towards the next support at like $12, $10, and maybe even start to rebound back up. The head and shoulder pattern, one of the most powerful, I would say, reversal pattern that if you spot it after prices for stock has gone up by a few months or a few years, and if you spot it right at the top, that's where you want to be careful. If you were to break a support level, there could be a potential reversal back down. So you either want to get out, you want to reduce your exposure, and you don't want to hold the stock all the way down if you were to see this head and shoulder pattern. So what is this pattern about? Hey guys, Joey here, profitability trader in Philip Securities. In this video, I'll be talking about head and shoulder pattern. We'll dive into the basics, how does this pattern actually form up, where do we want to spot it, and how do we actually wait for a completion of this pattern. So most people tend to use it wrongly, or they guess that the pattern is coming, but actually it's not really completed yet, and only when we see the completion of the pattern, then we get the confirmation, right, of more downside move. So we'll look at the basics of it, and I'll dive into some case studies as well to see if you can spot this head and shoulder pattern into some of the stocks, and if we were to break certain levels, we could actually see more weakness. So let's dive into my whiteboard right over here, and you can see that we have a head and shoulder pattern actually forming. So let me go ahead to explain to you where is that. So you can see right over here, a head and shoulder pattern will actually form in what we call in an uptrend, right? So it has been like pushing higher with prices, forming higher low. So that's a sign of an uptrend. The stock could be been pushing up a couple of months, couple of years, right? And somewhere around the top, right, we see the highest point. This is what we call the peak right over here. So this is a peak whereby prices hit to that level and sold all the way down. So where is this head? Well, I would say that the peak would be the head. So you can see this is like a head, and the left shoulder is on the left right over here, whereby we got a left peak, and the right shoulder would be right over here. We have a right peak as well. So this is something like a head and shoulder. You can see, right? I mean, like a human body, there's a head, there's a left shoulder and right shoulder, which is lower. So this is how we got a head and shoulder. Left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. All right, so how do we know whether this pattern is completed and we can start to see more weakness or a potential turn in the trend from like an upwards direction to now a downwards direction? Well, take note of this very key level right over here. So I mentioned about this support level, right? So we have this support level, the first one, and this is the second one. We form this support number 1 and number 2. We can actually draw what we call a support line right over here. All right, so you can see, guys, this is something like a head and shoulder, left shoulder, pick the head, and the right shoulder. All right, so most people tend to, when it hits to number 2, or maybe it rebounds back up, and you guess that it might be a head and shoulder pattern, it might actually, turn down. But the truth is that nobody knows, whether the stock can start to turn down until we get the confirmation of the break of the support line. All right, so right over here, if we do see like this support level breaking down right over here, right? Yes, that could be a confirmation, right, of a potential change in the trend from now up to maybe a bit of sideways to now potentially pointing down. So that is where we get the completion. So somewhere over, like over here, as it rebounds or maybe rebounds, right, we might not be able to tell whether this is a head and shoulder pattern, because right now, of course, we saw this, this prices going down and breaking the support. But in actual fact, we could actually hit to this support level and maybe even start to rebound back up, maybe even continue the uptrend. Does it make sense? So we are not able to guess, right, whether it will break the support until it actually breaks this support level that is formed by number 1 and number 2. So that is where, take note that you want to wait for a clear confirmation for a head and shoulder pattern, right? We don't want to second guess it or think that it will be a head and shoulder pattern without even breaking this very key support level. So one of the things that we can look out for a confirmation of more downside would be, if it breaks this support level on pretty decent or strong volume, right? So we can look at the counter's volume compared to its average, and if the volume is like more than 2 or 3 times, more than 5 times above its average, on this day, or on that week or couple of candlestick bars day, whereby it broke this support level, well, that it could be another confirmation that sellers are serious. They're out to break this entire support and push prices even lower. Okay, so let's take a look at some live case study to see if you can spot any of these head and shoulder pattern and if it could lead to more downside. And by the way, guys, if you like this video, you found some value so far, go ahead to give me a like, smash the subscribe button, hit the follow button. That will really help out the channel, and you will not miss out on any videos that we post like this. All right, thank you so much for doing this. Let's go ahead to look at this case study right now on this stock called Codices, right? The code is CDXS, whereby I managed to find something like a head and shoulder pattern forming. So let's see what we can draw. You can see that we can draw what we call a horizontal support line. So as I mentioned just now in the diagram, right, for a head and shoulder pattern, we have two bottoms right here, touch, rebounds. The rebound is where we have a horizontal support level, right, connecting the two lows, and we have a peak as well that is pretty much the head. So prices have gone up, came all the way back down, somewhere to where the prices are for like where it rebounded previously. So number 1 and number 2 are about the same, plus minus. Sometimes it might not be so accurate, but just around there, right? And based on these 2 points, these prices, we can draw a horizontal support line. You can see right over here. So let's go back to the example. You can see right over here we got two areas whereby yes, rebounded. So one over here, it rebounded. This is what we call like a neckline support. You can call it a horizontal support, but let's see where is the head. Well, there is a head right over here. Does it make sense? You can see that's the highest point we have formed, I would say, over the past 5 to 6 months. What about the left shoulder? Well, there is a left shoulder right over here. Can you see it went up, came back down? Same thing like what we have, right? It went up, came back down, rebounded from this support, the head form, came back down, rebounded up. So where's the right shoulder? Let's see if you can spot it somewhere over here as well. Can you see that is the right shoulder? So this is something like a head and shoulder pattern, right? So the point is that can we actually see weakness, or maybe actually rebound even higher and then push even higher? Well, nobody knows, right? So the question is that is the head and shoulder pattern completed, right? Are we quite clear that we can see weakness as of now? Well, I would say we are seeing a bit of weakness in the short term, because you can see right now we are actually pushing down. Maybe we might hit towards the support level. Maybe we might even rebound from it again, all right, and it starts to push higher. So nobody knows, right? But the key is that this head and shoulder pattern has not completed yet. So only when we see prices pushing down, and finally, if we were to break this support level, yes, when that happens, that is where, so right over here, when this happens, that would be a break of this neckline support, then potentially we may see more weakness all the way down, maybe towards the next support at like 150. Well, that could be the confirmation move of the head and shoulder, and that's where the trend could potentially turn from up. So it's like a bit moving up, swinging up, and swinging back down again, right? Something like what we have over here. It's swinging up, support, head and shoulder, pump, it broke the support, and we are swinging down again. So this is what we call a head and shoulder pattern that can potentially form, right? So as I mentioned, right, we have not completed yet, so we don't want to guess whether it will break this $2.50 support level. Yeah, it may happen, it might not happen, right? But only when it breaks 250, right? It goes to 245, 246, 240, all right? And on volume, it is pretty strong as well on this breakdown. Yeah, that could be a confirmation whereby the trend could potentially turn down. Okay, let's take a look at another case study to see if you can spot a head and shoulder pattern. So in this case, we have this stock right here called Ramaco Resources, and it seems like the head and shoulder pattern has already played out, it has completed, and we are starting to see some weakness. So let's go ahead to draw, all right, this horizontal support level running somewhere over here. Can you see? Right, that's where we have rebounded. There's a horizontal support level. All right, right over here, there's another support level. What about the head? Well, I would say you can see that is the head, which is pretty much the highest point over the past 4 to 5 months, around the $22. The left shoulder is right over here. You can see went up, came back down, swing up, came back down, went up again, the right shoulder. All right, so just by looking at pretty much the peak, the head and the right shoulder, you can see that we have been forming what we call lower high. So this is where we can draw a downward sloping channel resistance line connecting the high. So just by looking at the head and the right shoulder, we are seeing a bit of weakness, because this time when buyers actually came back and it rebounds back up, right? I mean, the right shoulder, you can see as it rebounds back up, buyers actually came up, sellers came up and start selling it down, right? It did not actually go up and up and up, even back to like the previous high, or maybe even breaking the previous high to hit higher. No, right? It didn't happen, right? It just went up a little bit, somewhere around where maybe the left shoulder is. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the left shoulder, like this here, the left shoulder, it might not be the same as the right shoulder, right? It may be around the same, might not be the same, but it doesn't matter. The main thing is that as long as this right shoulder, it is lower than the head. I mean, right over here, right? So this is the head, this is the right shoulder, it is like lower. Well, that is a sign of weakness because, buyers just push price up a little bit, sellers came back and start pushing it back down all the way to that same support level. So remember, right, when we hit to a support level, we can actually rebound from it. It might actually push up, right? So there is no confirmation of this head and shoulder pattern forming yet. There's no clear direction that it might point lower, but only if we were to break this support. We have broke down, you can see right over here, we have broke down this support. So this is a horizontal support, or if you look at the head and shoulder pattern as well, you can call it a neckline support, like our neckline, right? So it doesn't matter what name is it, but basically it's a support level whereby prices have finally broke down after staying above for, I would say, about 5 to 6 months. Rebounded from this $14 and 70 cents level a couple of times, rebounded. I mean, that's where we got this number 1 and number 2 support, right? So we broke down this level. You can see right now we are actually attempting to rebound a little bit, but now sellers are coming out and we might actually push even lower. So this support, this neckline support, will now be what we call like a resistance level. So let me turn it to red in color. So as long as we were to stay below this new resistance level, right, or below the neckline support that we have broken, well, not so good. We might start to see weakness overall, right? We might start to slowly hit lower, maybe towards the next support at like $12, $10, or maybe even the $8. That's potentially where we can head to as well, based on looking at the past prices. So how can this head and shoulder pattern actually guide you? Well, I mean, if you see this head and shoulder pattern and you have been holding on to this stock, you rode it, you maybe bought at the bottom, it went all the way up, and you see the completion of the pattern, it breaks this neckline support, well, then you might want to be careful. You want to reduce your exposure, get out, stop loss, have a plan to just reduce some of the stocks or holdings that you're kind of like holding, because we may see more downside. I mean, the worst thing is to like hold it all the way back down until you're back to where you were previously, right over here at about like $7 to $8. That's where we might see a lot of weakness. So that's how, when you spot a head and shoulder pattern, it can guide you to just get out, because when the pattern is to be completed, right, that is where more selling can actually happen. So let's take a look at another live case study as well. All right, so right now we're just talking about the head and shoulder pattern specifically, but when you use patterns, first of all, you want to use it together with like the trends, right? The trends. So if you like spot a head and shoulder pattern, and if there are signs from some of the trend indicators that the trend is also turning down, yeah, that would be another confirmation that that's where you want to be careful as well, right? So we don't talk about trends or like some other indicators that we use. If you want to find a little bit more on the entire one good trend strategy and how all these patterns fit in together, like candlestick and all the stuff, okay, I attend one of those free webinars they're running. I just placed the link below this video. Click on it, register for it. I think we have one a couple of weeks time. That's where we'll share with you guys on the entire one good trend strategy and how this pattern or head and shoulder pattern actually forms or be a part of this entire strategy. All right, so let's take a look at this case study right now. You can see that we have something like a head and shoulder. So you can see this stock, as I mentioned, right, we're not talking about trend, but you can see that for this stock, it has been in a bit of an uptrend, I would say, since like more than a year back. How do I know? Well, you can see that it's been forming what we call higher lows, right? Higher lows. That's why we can draw this upward sloping support line connecting the lows, right? The lows are rebounded. So anytime we stay above this line, I think it's pretty okay. We're still in a pretty good uptrend, right? So when we were to be in an uptrend and push higher and higher, and you see like a head and shoulder pattern potentially forming, potentially completing as well, that's where you want to be careful, all right? That's where you want to be careful. So let's take a look at whether we can see any head and shoulder pattern right over here. So let me just remove this line. You can see that we have found a support level. So let's go to draw this support level, maybe somewhere over here, right? So that would be a support level. What about the head? Well, there would be a head somewhere over here, right? So this is a head. We have something like a left shoulder. In fact, we have like another shoulder right over here as well. All right, and yeah, so we have two left shoulder and two right shoulder. Well, sometimes it does happen, right? So it's not so beautiful like this diagram that I've drawn you just now. All right, so left shoulder, right shoulder, and it's like looking really beautiful. And even number 1 and number 2 is like the same horizontal price level. Sometimes there might be a little bit of difference. The left shoulder might be higher, the right one might be lower or higher. Sometimes you might have 2 or 3. Sometimes on the right you might have 2 or 3 shoulder as well. Well, it does happen, right? That's how in reality the stock market works, right? It will not be so beautiful, and every time you can spot a very nice peak and left and right shoulder. All right, so let's see what we can tell right now. So you can see for this stock, as I mentioned, it has been a pretty good uptrend, but over the past like 6 months, it seems like we have seen a bit of selling pressure, a little bit of weakness. I mean, just by looking at the resistance, maybe we can draw this resistance level right over here, connecting, I mean, kind of like the peak whereby we've seen selling right over here, right? And as it rebounded, as I mentioned, right, we have this right shoulder that is lower than the peak, right? Look at this, right? So this is the right shoulder, and we have another right shoulder. You can see that this peak is the highest point compared to this, So that's where it just shows a bit of weakness, because now buyers have pushed prices up, but just a little bit, and then sellers came back and started to push it back down. It doesn't even go back to the same level, maybe somewhere around like $30, $29.60. It doesn't go back there. It just went up to maybe around $29, and prices started to push back down again, right? So there is a little bit of a head and shoulder pattern forming, right? So the key here is that same thing, right? We have not really seen a completion. We might actually just go back down and rebound again, and maybe even consolidate, and maybe even break the resistance to push higher. And that's what I can expect, because this stock has been in a bit of an uptrend, right? So actually there's a higher probability of it breaking this $30 resistance to push even higher, all right? But now that this head and shoulder pattern is kind of like, not really completed yet, you can put it in your watch list, right? And you can take note of this support level, which is the neckline support. So you can see, right? So this is the previous resistance that turned into a neckline support. In fact, we got a pretty bullish candlestick right here, somewhere over here as well. You can see that we got a pretty bullish candlestick. I'm not talking too much about candlestick day, but you can see this support level rebounded, and it's pretty much quite similar. I think that would be around that $25.50 or even $26. So as I mentioned, right, sometimes there'll be some slight difference in terms of the price level. We try to get the best fit line in terms of this support level. So around $25.50 to $26. So if we were to hit back to this same level, maybe $25.50, and finally we might consolidate and boom, right, we break down that $25.50 level, right? On volume, the volume is very strong. Well, that's where you want to be careful. That's where we may finally see the uptrend, and there could be a reversal, back down again from an upwards direction to a downwards direction. Of course, if you look at some other trend indicators, then there might be really some signs of the downtrend forming as well. And that's where, as I mentioned, when you spot a head and shoulder pattern completing, it can guide you to just get out, to reduce some exposure, maybe to stop loss as well, especially if you're holding on to this stock still. All right, so there we have it, guys. This is the head and shoulder pattern. I hope that I've given you guys a better understanding of how this pattern actually works. How do you know whether it has completed? What do you want to look out for? And most importantly, after spotting it and seeing it complete, what do you want to do, right? Rather than just holding the stock blindly all the way down. So this pattern, has been forming many times, especially if a stock has pushed up a lot. You definitely want to spot it, all right, and be careful, all right, if it really completes. All right, so I hope you like this video, guys. Go ahead to give me a like, subscribe, hit the follow button as well if you have not yet done so that you will not miss out on any videos like this. And by the way, guys, if you're going to find out about the entire one good trend strategy, right, as to how this pattern actually fit in, combined with other indicators, combined with things like patterns or candlestick as well, attend one of those free webinars that we're running. The link is right below this video or somewhere around the video. Click on it, register for it, and that's where I'll share with you guys the one good trend strategy and how this all makes sense when you look at it together. All right, so Joey here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.